On Wednesdays we wear pink. It isn't Wednesday where you are, but it is for me. Oh my god, hey! Welcome back to my Stagey YouTube channel. If you are meeting me for the first time, hello! My name is Mickey Joe and I am obsessed with all things theatre. And in news I wasn't expecting to be able to talk about this week, the Mean Girls movie of the musical of the movie of the book, I believe, let's not even go there, has announced its casting. Nobody saw this coming. We were aware that a Mean Girls movie was being talked about, but because it announced on the same day as the Wicked movie that has been talked about for like 2 decades now and has taken forever to announce its casting, no one was expecting the Mean Girls musical movie readaptation casting to come out this soon. And yet it has, and it's quite exciting. It contains a fun mixture of Broadway names reprising their roles, Broadway names taking on new roles, and non-Broadway names that may in fact have Broadway-level talent that we didn't know about. Let's discuss all of that. But before we do, if you're meeting me for the first time, welcome to my Stagey YouTube channel. This is where I review shows that I have been invited to go see here in the UK because I'm an independent theatre critic, and I also talk about news and drama and gossip happening in the theatre industry worldwide, which also means I like to talk about movie musicals. So if you like any of the above, make sure you're subscribed to my Stagey YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my very regular content. And if you like today's video, you can use the super thanks button down below to give me a small tip. That very much helps me as a Stagey content creator to keep making as many videos as I am. You can also go find me on other social media platforms. I am on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Mickey Joe Theatre. Now, for the first time on my channel, let's talk about the Mean Girls movie. So I really like the original Mean Girls film, and I have listened to a lot of the subsequent musical adaptation. I've listened to that cast recording a lot. I like its vibes. I think it's cute. It's a fun musicalization of that film, but I don't know that it has its own separate identity from that original film, and that is why I've never fully been on board with a movie of the musical of the movie. I just feel like it's an adaptation of an adaptation. It's a little bit of a hat on a hat, if you will. I need another hat to put on my hat to illustrate this. Oh, you get what I'm saying. And I can't see any tiny hats. And I think maybe it's just because this is still within recent memory, because this is not the first time that this has ever happened. When Hairspray first came to Broadway, this was a musical adaptation of an iconic John Waters film. So when that was then made into a film itself, that was a movie of a musical of a movie. Stuff like Matilda is a little bit different because the Matilda musical movie is an adaptation of a book. It went book, musical, movie of the musical. The book also went into a movie in the 90s, but it didn't have any relation to the musical. So this is not a completely new concept, and the Mean Girls film is not as recent as I'm trying to make out that it is, but because it's still within my living memory, it seems odd for us to be adapting it again, and yet that's what Hollywood looks like at the moment. And after a handful of movie musical successes in recent years, we are seeing more movie musical adaptations being greenlit, even though the show discernibly did not do hugely well on Broadway. It's toured the US. It's definitely very much in the musical theatre fan zeitgeist right now. Mean Girls has huge popularity, even if it hasn't yet come to the West End, even if it is no longer playing on Broadway. And my uncertainties about the necessity of this film aren't going to stop me from enjoying it either. As this progresses, I will be excitedly watching it, and I'll be looking forward to seeing this film when it eventually emerges, especially because of the cast that have just been announced. So, let's talk about who's going to be in the Mean Girls movie. Okay, so the headline news here is that Renee Rapp will be reprising her Broadway performance as Regina. Now, I know that Cady is the star of the show and Lindsay Lohan was the star of the first film, but Regina has become that character, and anytime Mean Girls casting gets announced, I feel like Regina is the one that we are all the most excited about. And this is a really big deal that Renee Rapp, who played this role in the musical on Broadway, is getting to play it again on screen. And yet, there's also a little bit of a peculiarity to this, because Renee Rapp did not originate the role. Renee replaced Taylor Louderman when she left the show, although I am given to understand that Taylor is currently very pregnant. At the same time, this probably won't make her feel any better about the fact that she also was not cast as Glinda in the Wicked movie. Taylor Louderman was very open about the fact that she was disappointed to find out she hadn't been cast as Glinda in the Wicked movie because she really thought that she was going to get it. It ended up going to Ariana Grande, and now the role that she created on Broadway is going to be played on film by the actress who replaced her on stage. That has to sting at least a little bit professionally. But Renee Rapp is a huge talent who herself has been making waves in the music and TV world. She's currently starring on an HBO series, I believe, and I see an enormous amount of love for her on social media. She's an incredible vocalist. I'm very excited to see her getting to play this role on screen. I think she's a little bit younger than Taylor, so she is probably closer to reading, more age appropriate, because we have to cast more close to these ages on screen rather than on stage, because you're going to see with a close-up camera versus being however many feet you can afford to be from the stage in a theatre, you're going to see more of the details on their faces and they're going to have to look younger. Unless it's the film adaptation of Grease, in which case you can cast as many mid-30-year-olds as you like. Interestingly, this is not the first time that a stage actor has recreated their role on film without having been the first person to play that role. Grease is a great example of this because I believe John Travolta was a replacement in the original Broadway production. I'm fact-checking myself on this. John Travolta, Grease, Broadway. Oh, he played Doody on Broadway, but did he understudy Danny? So the guy who played Kenickie in the movie, Jeff Conaway, he played Danny on Broadway, and the guy who played Doody in the movie, he played Sonny on Broadway. This is crazy. Did he understudy Danny in some capacity when he was on Broadway? Because I'm also reminded of Colton Ryan, the actor who played Connor in the Dear Evan Hansen film. He understudied, I feel like, Connor and Evan while he was on Broadway, so that was interesting to have him do the film and not Mike Faist, who originally played Connor, although Mike Faist was unavailable because he was doing West Side Story. So you start to see how these things work and the mad world that is casting. But in any case, Renee is going to be Regina in the Mean Girls movie. I can already hear how fantastic her studio recordings of those songs are going to sound. We have all listened to a bootleg of Renee Rapp singing World Burn and Someone Gets Hurt. Now we're going to get delicious proper recordings. Don't be giving me none of that live vocals nonsense. Don't you do it, not for Mean Girls. Come on now, behave. But who is playing Cady Heron? So Angourie Rice, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, best known for her roles in Mare of Easttown and Marvel's Spider-Man franchise. This is in the newer Tom Holland Spider-Man films. She plays the campus reporter character presenting the news, the little the blonde on-air broadcaster girl. She is going to be playing Cady Heron. And I do not know much about her background, so I'm going to do a quick little Google search here, and we're going to find out. I've just Googled Cady Heron. This is what I can't Google and talk to you at the same time. You're going to have to wait 1 second. Excuse me. Angourie Rice. Australian. She's an Australian actress. Cady Heron. I see stars. It's like a party with revenge is what it's like. So my immediate question, when you're cast as a lead role in a movie musical like this, where we know the challenges of this score, it's very contemporary, it's very belty, it's very high, can she sing? Has she sung before? I'm going to have a listen. We know they will always put a lot of faith in actresses who can kind of sing. She has a nice tone, she can hold a tune, she can pitch, this is good. I'm waiting for some more vocal strength. To the doubts that complicate your... I'm harmonising, that's not helping. Okay. I've heard enough of that to get a gauge of what this voice is. It's not like rapturous Broadway vocals. I mean, I don't know what that was for. I think that was part of Mare of Easttown. So I don't know whether that was meant to be in character to a certain extent, whether that was the best example of her singing and her belting. But I'm not mad at that. She has a certain amount of singing ability. It kind of reminded me of the actress who played Emma in the film version of The Prom. There was a lovely sweet vocal tone there, if not like a huge Broadway power behind it. But then is that necessarily needed in movie musicals? I don't know, because Renee Rapp is going to give you a certain amount of vocals, so you have to be able to contend with that. Otherwise, she is going to show you up on screen. Do we think she's going to be blonde? We haven't really had a blonde Cady Heron before, but she looks blonde. Here's the next question I want to know before we talk about the rest of the cast. Is Tina Fey going to reprise her role as Miss Norbury? Is she going to give herself another cameo within the film? Is she going to bring back any of her friends that made cameos in the first film? The reason we had Anna Gasteyer and Amy Poehler in that first film was because they were all Saturday Night Live previous colleagues and friends of Tina Fey's. Are they going to reprise their roles again? I'm very curious to find out. Is Tina Fey going to be in this once more? Because she is involved creatively, of course. So the next piece of casting, I did not see coming. I would not have guessed this in a million years. Auli Cravalho is playing Janice Ian. If you're wondering where you know that name, she is the voice of Disney's Moana, and since she has starred in various TV projects, she has kept herself very busy, and she is soon to be appearing in Sunset Boulevard alongside Stephanie J. Block. She's a legit singer, a legit vocalist, and Janice, other than Regina, I feel like maybe has the most vocally demanding role in the show, so I'm excited for her. And we've got to see her be like sweet and cutesy before in the whole Moana vibe, and what she's going to be doing in Sunset Boulevard is very sweet and ingenue-y. Janice Ian is very not that. We all know who Janice is as a character. She's gothy, she's punky, she's a rebel, she doesn't care. So it's going to be very interesting to see a very different side to Auli Cravalho than what we have seen before, because her voice has always sounded very youthful and very pure, so it definitely doesn't naturally have that edge and that vibe to it. I'm going to be very intrigued to hear how she adapts to this kind of a role. If you'd told me she was in the film, I feel like Janice would have been maybe the third person I thought she would have been cast as. My first assumption was that she would have been Cady. Second assumption, perhaps that she would have been, Gretchen Wieners. But I would not have pegged her for Janice, so that's intriguing. And Damien, I would never have guessed. Jaquel Spivey is going to be playing Damian. If you're wondering where you know that name from, he is currently starring for a few more weeks on Broadway as Usher in A Strange Loop, in the Tony Award-winning musical A Strange Loop. Jaquel was Tony nominated for his role as Usher and has been playing the role on Broadway. Have I just said the same thing 3 times? I've just said the same thing 3 times. But this is really exciting. And I like with these two, with Janice and Damian, that there is a colourblind casting approach here, and that we are seeing these characters played now by people from a different racial background to the people that played them in the original films, because there is no reason, just because that was played by a white person then, that it must always be played by a white person. Like, whiteness is not central to Janice or Damian's character. There is no need for them to be inherently Caucasian. And the Broadway production of Mean Girls for a long time was really, really great at having diverse understudies. And there were black performers understudying Regina and Karen and Damian and various different roles. But we did not see the same level of diversity in their principal casting. So I'm excited for a black man to be cast as Damian, for a black gay man to be playing a black queer character. I think that's really important. A Strange Loop is a show that talks all about how additionally marginalized a black man can be even within the gay community. So I think it's really important that we have something kind of intersectionally conscious of that in our casting for Mean Girls. I think that's going to add a lot of layers to this character. And is that all we know so far? That's all we know so far. We do not know any more casting. So I speculated before, is Tina Fey going to be coming back? Are we going to see any other cameos, do we think? Are there any of, gosh, instead of Tina Fey and her generation coming back, do we think any of the original Mean Girls movie cast, like the Plastics, could come back as the parent characters? Could Amanda Seyfried come back as one of the parents? I know she may hate me for saying that. How old is Amanda Seyfried now? Is this sacrilegious that I'm even suggesting this? Amanda Seyfried. I would love for Lindsay Lohan to come back. And McAdams. I would be all about that. Okay, Amanda Seyfried is 37 now. This is completely viable. Maybe not as one of the mothers, although I guess that technically lines up to just about work, but maybe like as a Miss Norbury. In fact, if any of the original Plastics had to play Miss Norbury, who would you like to see come back to be Miss Norbury? That's a really interesting question. I've opened up a whole can of intrigue here. Who else do you want to see in these roles in the Mean Girls movie? Who do you want to see as Gretchen? Who do you want to see as Karen? Who do you want to see as all of the other adults? Who do we want to see as, what's his face? Aaron Samuels. Who is going to be Aaron Samuels? These are the pressing questions that we need to know the answers to. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below, and let me know your thoughts on the casting that we've already talked about. Are you on board with these performers? Who in particular are you the most excited about? And what are your thoughts on a Mean Girls movie musical adaptation? Are you excited for this? Do you think we need it? Let me know what you're thinking about this planned film. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe to my Stagey YouTube channel for plenty more content coming very soon about all your favorite shows and movie musicals. Also, if you really enjoyed today's video, as a reminder, you can use the super thanks button down below to give me a tip. That very much helps me to keep making regular theatrical content here on YouTube. I hope that everyone is staying safe and that you have a stagey day.
For 10 more seconds, I'm Mickey Joe Theatre. Oh. Oh my god, hey. Thanks for watching, have a stagey day.
Subscribe!